So next speaker, a good friend of mine, Jason Poole from Mississippi. Jason and I go back, I guess, 7, 8, 10 years now. See the world in a very similar lens. Have a lot of the same interests, very entrepreneurial. We've always had great conversations with each other about life and business and philosophy and everything else. And Jason and I have this running joke, and I guess Mark was saying it earlier, but Jason always says if he gets in a jail in a different country, I'm going to be his first call. So every time I get a spam call, from Nigeria or somewhere else, I'll send a buddy check on Jason and be like, hey man, just got a call from Africa, you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm in Mississippi. I'm like, all right, brother, just checking on you. But Jason wrote a book years ago about the entrepreneurial hustle, and he was one of the first ones that came to my mind for this year on a TED Talk. So I don't know what he's going to bring with us today. Like I said, he's got no big act to follow or anything after the last couple speakers, but I know he's going to blow us away. So come on up here, brother.
So everybody thinks they're a savage until they meet one, right? I think we met some today. A lot on the stage. I know there's some out there sitting at every single table. And everybody wants to be a savage until it's time to do what savages do. I consider myself a savage in training, with a long way to go, but a lot of really good examples. And when I walked out of that Taylor Swift concert with my 10-year-old, I felt unstoppable. I was telling those little girls, get out of the way, coming through. And then you come to a place like this, and you're humbled really quick. You walk around, and you're meeting people, staring people. These people are bigger than life. And it's just a constant reminder of what the name of the event is you got to be in the chase. And when I thought about a visual of what the chase looked like to me, I couldn't come up with anything. And then I remembered a picture that a friend of mine's wife sent to me in 2022, and it had popped up on Time Hop that sends me a picture of what was taken a year ago, every year going back. And this is Trevor. He's greatness to me. In every aspect of anything that I want to be, Trevor is greatness. And then I noticed a couple years later on Time Hop, this is Jason. Really. This is chasing. And as funny as the picture is, I think that this is what chasing should look like. Now that's me holding ice on my head, and when they came and got me and took me to the medical tent, when I left a couple hours after the medical tent, I really started to think is like, what else am I doing in my life that makes me feel like I'm really chasing greatness? And when Nathan asked me to bless the stage amongst all of these wonderful people and all of these wonderful speakers, I knew that if I didn't feel like that in the chase, then it wasn't enough, because good enough can't be a goal. It's a surrender. And I aim to live in the chase, and the lion that chases mice will starve. And as a kid, I remember that I wanted to be a doctor. And then I met a doctor, and he told me he had to go to school for 12 years. Then I was like, well, I'll be a nurse. And then I went to college, and I was like, maybe I'll be a CNA. And then, well, I'll just get a degree, and then I just need to get out of school, right? So I continued to settle for good enough because that's what was comfortable. And I have been paying close attention for the last year about what I notice the chasers have. Because I got to build a system. Because a goal is not enough without a system in place. The fair comes in October is something that I heard my dad say 1,000,000 times. Anytime that I brought up unfortunate circumstances, they didn't pass me the ball, the pitcher was throwing too slow, the ball was foul, he would always say, the fair comes in October. But there was a second part to that fair comes in October, and that second part was you ain't going. So the fair comes in October, but you ain't going. And I feel like my pops had a hard life, and he felt what something being unfair was like. He wanted me to adopt a mindset that I didn't rely on fairness. I didn't rely on things falling my way, because the chasers are rounding the bags when I'm complaining that the ball should have been called foul. Right? The chasers are running the ball back for a pick six when I'm complaining about pass interference. And that ends up being the separator between the chasers and the posers. And I know Nathan has talked about respect the game. If you're not going to do it, then get out. And as I heard speaker after speaker after speaker, it validated the things that I had been thinking of what chasers embody. And that fairness is that it don't rely on circumstances, right? They don't rely on circumstances. They ask for better discipline. And then next, they underpromise and overdeliver on everything that they do. If it's not overdone, it hasn't been done yet. Just look around you. You can tell that a chaser put this event on. I've been at conferences for $10 billion companies that don't look like this. Look at the centerpieces, look at the food, look at the location, look at the screen. Everything about this is overdone. And it's not just this conference. The chasers overdo everything. Everything in life is overdone. Birthday parties, chest of drawers, houses. The way that the chest of drawer looks on the outside is the same way it looks on the back. When they build a house, there's just the same amount of attention to the stuff that you can't see versus the things that you can. Consistency. Effort is common and endurance is rare. Effort is common and endurance is rare. Anybody can do it for a month. Anybody can do it for a day. Anybody can do it for 3 months or a year. But the chasers look at things in terms of lifetime. And that's something that you can't beat. They live. The chase happens in the extra mile. And when the losers and the average are traveling down the road and they see the sign that says the extra mile, they get off. And the chasers, they put it to the floor. They put it to the floor. Some form of karma, whatever you want to call it, they believe in some form of karma. Because they spend as little time as possible talking about how people are wrong. And they spend as much time as possible building people up without any expectations of getting anything in return. Because they understand that if they help enough people get what they want, then they will get what they want. They understand that the reward for being a good person is that they're a good person. They do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Simple as that. They say yes. When I think about a chaser, I picture a button that says go on it, and their hand is just shaking, ready to press it. You see, they don't need a purpose to prepare. They don't have to have this race coming up to prepare. They don't have to have an event coming up to prepare, because their purpose is preparation. They understand that if they embrace the voluntary struggle, then they will be prepared for the involuntary struggle that will inevitably arrive. And just like karma, it kicks like a mule and it bites like an alligator. Right? We've all felt it. But the heart attack doesn't send us a text message 2 weeks ahead of time to say, hey, you might want to go get checked up. Financial ruin doesn't put it in our calendar. COVID didn't call my grandma and tell me that, hey, you need to be prepared. Right? We've got to prepare without purpose and let our purpose be preparation. And the chasers are always ready to go. I was talking to Frank last night, and he was talking about getting called up on stage last year at Chasing Greatness with absolutely no heads up. I think Nathan likes to do that. But it reminded me of something, is that when somebody hands you a mic, you don't ask what to say. You just get up and talk from the heart. When somebody offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you don't ask which chair, you just get on. And that's what the chasers are doing. They never put themselves in a situation to where they can't say yes to something that they didn't prepare for. They live by it. They die by it. That's how they move through their life. They're obsessed. I don't really have an articulate way to this, but the chasers, they're just absolutely nuts. Psychopath, nut cases like you've never heard before. And I was giggling back there in the back because I think there was 3 or 4 people that during their speech were talking about people calling them crazy. It's because they are. To us average people, just spend 20 minutes with one of these savages at your table. Find out what they do, how they eat, how they prepare, when they get up in the morning, how they exercise, how they treat their kids, how they treat their family, how they treat their money, how they treat their body. They're absolute, complete psychopaths. Because to a chaser, the obsession is the only thing that matters. And what I have found is usually that obsession means helping other people. And that's where the chasers really end up separating themselves. The last is upstream. And there's a quote that I just absolutely love. I say it every single day to my kids. But the chasers embody a spirit of upstream. Is that they say, hang on, we got to stop pulling these bodies out of the river. We got to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. They look for root cause problems. They stop putting Band-Aids on things. They fix what's wrong. They fix what's wrong. They don't fix what happened. Last year at Chasing Greatness, and Nathan mentioned this morning, Katie Britt, which I had no idea who she was. I'm a Mississippi boy, like he said. But she put a challenge out to the group. And the challenge was to force yourself into rooms and to sit at tables where you don't belong. And I don't know what it was about that, but it's something that it just I felt an immense amount of pressure on my chest, on my head, on my shoulders about that statement. And as I went through the last couple of years, I'd never done that. But that day, I made a promise to myself that I was going to do it. And what I found out is that the don't belong only existed up here. The don't belong aspect of forcing yourselves to a table to where you don't belong. It wasn't that I had to get past the other people sitting at the table. I had to get past myself because it was you versus you. It's me versus me. It's nothing else other than the limitations that I put on myself. Because if it doesn't break the laws of physics, then it can be done. And that's been proven time and time and time again, generation after generation after generation. So I was thinking to myself while sitting at Chasing Greatness last year, I was ready to karate kick through the door and go take on the world. And I was thinking, it's like, where do I not belong? And as you can see, I don't belong in running, right? I don't belong in running. And a place that I really don't belong is in ultra running. But I was so inspired by Nathan, by the speakers, by Brad, by Katie. I said, I'm going to run 100 miles. I'm going to run 100 miles. Hadn't done it yet. But I have failed many, many times since that meeting. But I failed in the streets. I failed on the trails, not on the treadmill. I failed on the beach of Pascagoula at mile 56. I failed in Christchurch, New Zealand, mile 27. I failed at Oak Mountain State Park. I didn't think there was real mountains in Alabama until it might have just been a hill, but it felt like a mountain to me. Fell at mile 30. Somebody gave me a bright idea to run across the Grand Canyon. I was going to do it 4 times. Failed in the Grand Canyon. Failed again in October at mile 43. But I failed in the streets. I'm finding out the chase while I'm chasing, not while I'm thinking, not while I'm planning, not while I'm preparing. I'm building scars every single day that one day I'm going to text Nathan and tell him I hit it. Because he texted me right after a while, because I told him at that meeting that I was going to do it. I didn't, but I will. I will. I've made a promise to myself. I've put together a process, and it might not happen this week or next week or March 7th, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And the reason why I know that is that greatness, it's not reserved for the gifted. It's not reserved for the gifted. It's carved by the savages and the chasers that refuse to stop until they figure out how far they can go. And I'm going to end with this. After dissecting Chasing Greatness over and over and over and over again, I understand, and I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know this, that the greatness that I seek is just on the other side of the chase that I avoid. Go be great. Thank you, guys.